All right. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is James Chung. I'm a first year medical student, and I'm going to be talking today a little bit about some of the basics of protein, where you can get in your diet, why you should eat it, and why you should care. So, just to give you a little bit of background on what a protein is, really, the basic building block of a protein is what's called an amino acid. So, if you look over there on the far left of the diagrams there, that is the characteristic chemical structure that you would see in an amino acid. So if you take these amino acids and you bond them together into this long chain, that forms what's called a peptide. So this peptide chain that we've now formed can further fold in on itself to form a 3D kind of globular structure called a protein. And so basically there are 20 different types of amino acids that are all found in proteins, and that's the right side of the diagram there. No, it's not really worth memorizing for this purpose, but that's just a table for comprehension. And so proteins as a whole have pretty numerous structural, functional roles within biology as a whole. So basically, they're everywhere, and they do so many different things from a biological and biochemical perspective. And this is also why they're found in our food. So yeah, that's just a basic overview on proteins and amino acids. Excuse me. So how is protein digested? So when we eat steak or tuna or some other kind of high protein food, what exactly happens to the proteins when we eat them, right? Well, basically first chewing the protein, chewing it up, breaks it down from that globular 3D structure, like breaks it apart a little bit, right? Breaks it up in little pieces. And then we swallow these pieces. And then the acid that we have in our stomach unfolds this protein. So remember I told you it was all folded up compactly. The acid unfolds it back into a linear form. And so this linear form then travels to the small intestine where more enzymes break down that linear chain of amino acids into individual amino acids. And these individual amino acids can then be absorbed in the blood. And so after they're absorbed in the blood, they're basically free to move about through the body, right? And the cells of the body can then take the amino acids that are found in the blood and then absorb them and use them. So that's basically how protein gets from our plate to our bloodstream and ultimately our cells. So why do we need to eat protein, right? So basically, 9 out of the 20 types of amino acids that are out there, we cannot make those amino acids. So we have to eat them in order for our body to be able to function normally. These are termed essential amino acids. Amino acids can be used for energy by the body. It's kind of like carbs in the previous lecture I talked about. Certain types can be converted into glucose, which would be the glucogenic amino acids. And there's a table over there to list out the different ones that are glucogenic. So they can be converted into glucose or ketone bodies, which is another type of energy that the cell can use to create ATP. And those are the ketogenic amino acids. And further, amino acids, beyond their energy potential, they are important building blocks that the body can reuse to create new things. So muscle, skin, hair, even some hormones, brain chemicals like our neurotransmitters, and even antibodies. They're all made from these proteins, these amino acids that we take in, right? So those are just some functional ways that our body uses the protein that we eat. So now that we talked about, what is protein, why we need to eat it, how much protein do you really need to eat in order to be healthy, right? So the recommended protein intake for an average adult in the United States is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So an example of this would be a 75 kilogram person needing to consume about 60 grams of protein per day. And in general, younger populations like teenagers, they need to consume a little bit less, about 52 grams of protein per day, while teenage girls need about 46 grams per day. I think this is just mostly reflected by their lower body weight on average compared to adults. Generally, the United States population eats enough protein for general health purposes, risk of inadequate intake is from the health perspective is relatively low in industrialized countries like the United States. But as a caveat to that, athletes or those engaging in regular strength training do likely require additional protein to support those endeavors. So the range that I've seen in the literature, and there's a source for that, the range that maximizes muscle protein synthesis is about 1.3 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So that's just a kind of a range there. So what are some good sources of protein that you can include in your diet to get all the amino acids that you need, right? So some examples of good animal-based protein sources include like white meat poultry, like chicken, milk, cheese, yogurt, eggs, lean beef, and so on. And some good plant-based protein sources include things like beans, soy, quinoa, nuts, chickpeas, and so on there too. Generally, animal-based proteins tend to have all of the essential amino acids, whereas many plant sources may be missing some. But even in light of this, I think it is 100% possible to have a health-promoting dietary pattern with or without animal-based protein sources. So you might just need to pay a little bit more attention to that if you are following, say, like a vegan diet, as an example. But I'm not trying to say that you need to eat animal-based protein sources in order to be healthy. It's totally possible to get all the protein you need from plant-based sources. So that's really all I had on the basics of protein, what it is, why you need to eat it, how it's used by the body, and some good sources of it. So I hope you found this informative. I'm going to be making another lecture at some point on the overview of like lipids and other things like that. So just keep an eye out for that one. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching.